Hey everybody, it's Chamber Matt, and this year in 2023, we have a lot of items on the ballot. We have 9 races in South Kitsap, as well as the South Kitsap School District's $271 million bond to replace 5 schools in South Kitsap, as well as doing some safety and some other improvements around the district. The Chamber of Commerce just recently did a information forum with the South Kitsap School District. In that forum, it was a live forum. Our objective was to talk about, kind of where we're at as far as the bond is concerned, and what it is going to be used for, kind of how we got to the conclusions and the decisions that were made as far as the Long Range Facilities Planning Committee and the year plus that they met to go over all the different school district facilities. And then we talked a little bit about what the board did with the information from the Long Range Facilities Planning Committee. So that, an explanation from Director Wilson. And then we also had a presentation from Lee Fenton, who is a school architect and designer, kind of talking a little bit about the process that goes through in getting funding, the ability to get matching funds from the state. And then he also talked a little bit about the process and the due diligence that the district went through their contractors to take a look at the feasibility of the different options. And that's part of the Q&A. And then we had an opportunity for those individuals that opposed the bond to give a little presentation, and then a supporter of the school bond presented, and then we did some Q&A. So what follows? So the video that we posted here includes the Facebook Live video that we took at the time. We've also got online on our YouTube channel the videos for the 9 other races that are taking place in South Kitsap this year. So I'd encourage everybody to check those out. Most importantly is, ballots are due on November 7th. They should come out somewhere in the vicinity of October 20th. Do your research, get your votes in, and be heard. So thanks everybody. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.
My name is Matt. I'm the president of the South Kitsap Chamber of Commerce, and I want to thank you guys all for coming here to join us tonight. The objective of the Chamber of Commerce is one of the objectives, I should say, because we're here to promote business, but it's also a matter of promoting community awareness. I don't know if you guys have seen, but this year we have in South Kitsap there's 9 different races on the political spectrum. 5 in the city, 4 in the county, 3 school board and the fire commissioner. We got 4 city council and the mayor. So there's 9 positions out there. So I did interview. So if you haven't decided yet when you're going to vote for those races, you can go and check out those videos. But our whole thing and our whole goal is that A, you'll vote, and B, that you will be informed when you vote. So that's kind of what today is about. This is not a school board or a school district meeting. This is a Chamber of Commerce meeting, and no decisions are going to be made here. None of that type of stuff. This is strictly for informational purposes only. I do want to give a shout out to Whiskey Gulch, Robert. So I got 23 points to go real quick. This is a Chamber of Commerce event, not affiliated with the school district. We are going to have a variety of speakers come up, and I would expect everybody to be respectful of those. If you cannot be respectful, you can leave right now. I'm dead serious. Sorry, that right there. Okay. So yeah. So if you can't be, I had a couple people tell me they helped me throw people out the window. So that is on the table. What's that?
Tied up?
Tied up, so it'll be okay. But, yeah. So our objective, like I mentioned earlier, is just to provide information. I've asked representatives of the school district, from those people that oppose the bond, and the people that support the bond, everybody can come up and kind of give their 2 cents worth. But my objective is to kind of talk about where we are, how we got here, and what plans should be done about it. Okay? Because I mean, I've talked with a lot of people on both sides, and a lot of people, most people think that something needs to be done. Okay? Maybe not this, maybe that's not it. I'm not here to debate that, and in fact, we're not here to debate anything. We're just here to talk about it. So, with that being said, you know, and the processes that the school district has gone through, whether it's from the long-range planning committee, which was a public meeting, board meeting, which was a public meeting, none of that I think is really how we got here. I don't think it's necessarily up for debate. What we can do in the future is the question. So then once we're done with my documentary show, then we'll go ahead and accept a few questions from you guys. And what I don't want is I don't want somebody to take the mic and then go into a prolonged speech, one way or the other. This is about questions. If you have a question, we welcome your questions. All right? So I think once we're done, and I'm introduce that I've got coming up to speak on this, you know, you can address, you know, and we don't have time for all of them. We are Facebook Live, right? Right? So I can say, hi everybody out there at Facebook Live. We didn't tell anybody we were Facebook Live yet, so, you know, we can say this for posterity's sake. So, with that being said, this is kind of the agenda. Is I'm going to invite Superintendent Winter to talk about the bond, what it is, what we're looking at, what the plan is. Okay? Now, to get here, the school district commissioned a committee, a long-range facilities planning committee, that there was probably a dozen people, maybe a little less than a dozen people. I was on the committee. I'm just an average guy. Okay, I was on the committee. We went out. Well, I'm going to let Jerry's going to talk about that next. Then I'm going to have Director Wilson. Director Wilson is going to come up and he's going to talk about what the board did, how they looked at the situation, how they analyzed it, the meetings they held, and all that other stuff. Then I'm going to have he's not here today as Director Bailey. I'm going to have Jeff come up, and Jeff's going to talk about some of the concerns that the citizens have about this bond. Okay? And then, so what I've got is I've got kind of Lee. Oh, Lee, I've got Lee. So, Lee, I've got Lee here too. Lee, I don't know who Lee is. He's just a guy. Lee kind of knows a little bit about those schools and a little bit about money. And you know, when we went through this process, we learned there was matching funds available from the state under certain circumstances. So he's going to kind of address those because this isn't, nobody's expected citizens of South Kitsap to pay all of these improvements. Well, he's going to address those. Like those four folks coming up, and that's kind of the gist of the bond. Jeff Daly's going to come up and he's going to talk about what he wants to talk about. And then I'm going to have Cynthia Roland come up and talk about the other side. Okay, so that's really the only, that's going to be the pros and the cons side of things. And then we'll ask questions. Okay? Again, I ask everybody to be respectful of the speakers, respectful of the questions that you have. Any questions on the format and what I hope to accomplish here today? Seeing none, we'll move on. Superintendent Winter, would you like to come up?
Just turn it on.
Turn it on?
Yeah, there's on.
You can. We keep these guys tethered so that they can't wander too far.
I was hoping to move a little bit. Matt, thank you for the opportunity. First, all these rooms at the same time. I think that's important that we're all here together. Because there are two sides to every issue, so I think it's important that we have a chance to talk about it. So I will go briefly. We've got information out. I think for the most part we know what the bond is about, but I'll say this. $271 million, about $1.80 per thousand in assessed value. On average of a $500,000 home, that's about $540 a year. It turns out to be about $45 a month, a little over $1 a day. So as we start to break that down, that's what it looks like. 5 total school replacements, 2 elementaries, Olala, that is to start kids early. So that's part of the plan for those two schools. It's also to provide a community space for two communities, Olalla and South Colby, that don't have a whole lot around for meeting spaces. So that's the plan there. Those two schools would be built behind the existing school, so students would be able to continue school during the time of construction with minimal disruption. Another replacement is Cedar Heights Middle School. Again, same idea that we would build behind Cedar Heights, utilize the gym as a remaining structure, and build that while school's in session. That would create some spaces for things like science and STEM activities. There's no theater space at Cedar Heights like there are at the other two middle schools. To expand the size to the size of the two other existing middle schools. It would create some collaboration spaces, but also, if you've been to Cedar Heights, you know that it was designed as an open concept school, so there's really some makeshift walls there which make it a challenge. So we have put some doors and done the best we could. That's another piece of that. The other thing, the Explorer Academy and Discovery High School will be a combined campus on the existing campus of Madrona Elementary where Discovery is. And Explorer right now meets in a farmhouse and some portables up on a softball field at high school. Some people say, well, why would you need a building for an online school? Well, it really is not online, it's hybrid. You can go up there any day of the week and you will see students in classes and also students hanging out doing their online work while they're out there. So that's an important piece too. The other thing is Discovery High School. One of the things we learned in the pandemic is school choice is really important. And Discovery plays a key role, just like Explorer, in providing parents and students choice and opportunity for their education in South Kitsap. So, if you've been to Madrona, not a very quality building. It's pretty run down. It was meant to be a primary elementary school. Those kids deserve a quality facility, just like the kids in Explorer, just like the kids around the rest of the district. And then the last piece is South Kitsap High School, the 1960 South Wing, which houses vocational ed, some special ed, some art classes. Like I said, built in 1960. The goal of that would be to upgrade, so it's industry standard. And when I say industry standard, it also just means electrical. To be able to plug things in without things blowing out. Eliminate portables to the high school. We have 43 portable classrooms that would be eliminated through this bond, and that's a big deal. So when I bring that up, I'm talking about safety. Safety is really important. We need to improve safety in our district. We see all around the issues in the world with safety, so that's something we're looking to improve. But safety is one, accessibility. I was out of Olalla the other day. You cannot have wheelchair access to Olalla Elementary unless you go all the way around the school and come in the backside. So just like Matt talked about accessibility here, our schools need to be accessible. We need to create spaces where kids can learn. We need to create spaces where they can really, in 2023 and beyond, education. Education has changed. And I asked this question at our parent partnership meeting the other day. What's changed in the last 15 years in education? Quite a bit has changed. And expectations on us as educators, expectations on parents, expectations on the community. Then the last piece of this is there's some improvements around the district that we're also looking to do. A lot of those would be centered on how we increase traffic flow outside some of our elementaries. There is an increase in parents dropping and picking up kids. And the way the buses are situated in some of those schools make it really difficult, not only for parent pickup and parent drop-off, but also really difficult for the community members in those areas to get through. So those are the other things that are part of the bond. Those are the facts. I'll turn the mic over to Matt again, and we'll look forward to listening to everyone else.
All right, thank you. So my sister texted me the other day and said, "Did you go to Cedar?" I was like, "Yeah." "Did you save your yearbooks?" Like, "Yeah." I said, "What years were they?" "I don't know, 77, 78, somewhere in that vicinity." So I can attest to the fact that Cedar Heights has been around for a while. And it was open concept when I was there, right? The English was on one side, and the history and those guys were on the other side. We were back to back. So next, I'd like to ask Jerry to come up and talk about the long-range facilities planning committee. And one of the things that I can say about the long-range facilities planning committee, and whether they like it or not, I can say, we were originally commissioned to talk like 50 years out of school facilities, and the way things are changing, it's going to be really hard to know what schools are going to be looking like in years.
admire the view out there, and we got beautiful views on the screen here, and actually looking back there. So thank you again, Mr. Knowles, thank you, Chamber, for giving us a chance to talk. Matt asked me to talk about what we did on the long range facilities planning committee, and to give you all some background on my experience working with these issues in the district. I've been part of the last 3 bond campaigns. 2017, we had one, late 2016 we had one, and then in 2018 we had another one. And those bonds were all for a second high school out of the road equipment properties by 16. We came very close in many of them. A clear majority of the community supported those bond measures. We couldn't take 60% to get yes in this town. So after our 2018 loss by another slim margin, a lot of us really took a step back and we asked, are we doing the right thing? Are we looking at this the right way? And are we giving the community what they're asking for? And in conversations with a lot of residents, business owners, and other stakeholders around, a lot of people ask the question, like, hey, you know, we can't keep running the same thing that's been tried for 20 years. We've got to do something different. So I was really excited when the board announced in late 2020 that they were going to form a long-range facilities planning committee. And I applied for the open enrollment period, as did everybody else who was part of that committee. And we first met in January of 2021, those very dark days of that first COVID winter. The first meeting I actually dialed into from up at Bangor, waiting in a line before it rained. We were one of the first people to get the vaccine. And it was kind of a weird moment in time, like still being a hybrid of us looking forward, you know, to what is the future of facilities in our districts coupled with our needs. So the committee, you know, very quickly got around this. We had some conversations about what's been done in the past. And there was some concern that we were going to come up with a brief disclosed measure. And yeah, we need another second high school again. Let's go do it. But this committee was an extremely diverse committee. We had, you know, people who were small business owners. We even had a parent who enrolled her children out of the district because of her concerns over crowding at the high school. Part of this committee wanted to be a stakeholder in the solution and moving this far forward in our town. We looked at a couple of different options. We read a lot of data. Oh my gosh, we looked at a lot of data. We had a presentation from Piper Sandler, which is a firm that looks at financing options for school campaigns, helped us dive into the details between bonds and levies, and, you know, what are contingencies, what's a realistic cost per building. We looked at open enrollment data. We had a lot of data requests back to the district, you know, how many of our kids are enrolling out of the area because of our facilities issues. What's that doing to the performance of our education? And lastly, our group decided very quickly that we couldn't make a decision without seeing the buildings. So we toured every single building in this district. We had a schedule for about 5 months straight, or twice a week. We were out in a building after hours, walking through. Some of the walkthroughs lasted 45 minutes, some of them lasted 2 hours long. It's cool. I got to see parts of our buildings that I didn't even know existed. I got to see the inside of the food nutrition center, the transportation department, really seeing the magic that happens in this district every day because our voters have been generous in passing levies. So we've been able to retain key staff, and we have a lot of good things going in our district. But what surprised me the most was the serious state of disrepair. You know, I'm a Orchard Heights fan. My kids were Sharks up there, and that's the oldest school in our district. Originally designed to be a hospital. It's just been made up. But the bones are still solid in that building. As we started looking at other buildings, we saw, you know, the campus portables that is South Colby. We went out to Walla and saw old Seattle public school portables that the district actually bought used decades ago, where there were squirrels and birds living in the siding. And the ceiling panels, even though they've been periodically replaced, the frame on a portable building is just falling down. So we did that. So we went out and we looked at a lot of buildings. We got back together. We kicked around a lot of different plans, a lot of different ideas. Looked at each site individually, kind of assessed, well, you know, what is do we think?
Fine, take my mic away.
Do we try to rehab this building? Do we build in place? Is it such a lost cause? It was built so long ago and so much has changed, like building codes, that it's actually far more advantageous to replace the building. And we found sites in South Colby, Cedar, and Olalla where that is possible. And these are buildings that also happen to be in the most dire state of disrepair and need. Matt mentioned Cedar Heights. I had the pleasure last, actually 2 winters ago, when we had a substitute teacher shortage for being an emergency substitute. You don't know what an emergency substitute, somebody like me with absolutely no background in teaching who thinks that they can be a teacher for a day. And I went and I taught 6th grade math, and I messed up getting a test, and I had to have a kid to retake the test. But actually having the opportunity to interact with the classroom in this building drove that point home even more to me, that I can hear the class next door. Granted, I was able to shout for help a couple of times. The faculty bathroom, it was really wedged in as an afterthought. I mean, I'm not a huge guy, but I'm not a small guy. My elbows were like this when I had to use that bathroom during the 2 minutes that I had available for me to do it. And the building's literally sinking into the ground. Built on so we looked at just all this data, all this stuff, and then we spent last spring really refining what are the needs. And we went back and forth between, well, maybe we do a bond for this, maybe we do a bond for this, maybe we phase this over 3 months. And the committee quickly realized that this has been the same pattern that we've been caught in for decades in this district. Okay, the high school lender is going to be step 1, and then in 10 years we'll refinance that and we'll do something else. But we've never got to step 1. Which is why when we came around this time, we said, our job as a committee is to put forward what are the needs of the district, regardless of the cost, regardless of what we think the political feasibility is. What are the actual needs of the district for the next, 15, 10, 20 years? And then we handed that off. So I think we came up with a total sum of somewhere in the neighborhood of $500 million, really looking at every building that we thought would need substantial something in the next 30 years. That's not, I don't run retail funds. I can tell you where the thresholds are going to be. So our committee has decided that we have been working at this for 16 months. We met probably 30 times. There were a couple of weeks that we canceled here and there due to schedules. We toured every building in the district, and we presented this plate back to the district and went back to the board and go, well, here you go. And they kind of went, well, now what? And it was actually Director Daly who had the idea, we should have a separate group of people take a look at this to hone this down. And I said, that's a good idea. I'm not going to be on it. So we had a handful of folks from the existing committee. We brought in a handful of other community members and stakeholders to look at this plan again and then ask, where did we start? And that's the measure that you see in front of you today. Past bonds that I've been a part of, it's kind of been more of a, well, let's throw some dollars, let's talk to some consultants, let's get some rough numbers around an idea and put it forward. I've never seen this level of work put into it to try to find something that is actually feasible that can build and provide consensus across the community. So, thank you, Matt.
So, you did mention the $500 million that we originally proposed, and that was all turned over to the board, and then it was the board, and I'm going to have Director Olson come up, because then when we plot that stack of stuff down in front of the board, then they are the ones that analyze it. They whittle our numbers down from $500 million to immediately $270 million. So, go ahead and tell us a little bit about what the process and the thoughts behind the board's decision.
Well, thanks, Matt, and thanks to Wisconsin for hosting. Once we got to work as a facilities committee, 75 pages of great data that's available to the public. You can read all how your buildings stack up, where your kids, your friends, your family have gone. We wanted to really go out to our community and share with them what those findings were, trying to summarize it as best we could in some sort of a priority order. And so what we did is we had a series of meetings, over a dozen meetings. I think about the final count was 15 or 16 meetings. Some were virtual, some were on site. So like we talked about going to, for example, Cedar Heights, we had a pretty big turnout there. That was our #1 need from the committee. Lots of people came out and toured some of the twists and turns, and like Matt, it was still open concept when I was there too. So it was really hard to study, but you see sort of temporary walls and kind of make new solutions and so forth. So what we wanted to do as we share that information is to be able to understand sensitive about what can people afford. So that's when some of our experts came back to us too and said, well, look at the tax rate of what people paid in 2022. We know people are capable of doing that because you all paid your taxes, and thank you for doing that, by the way. And so we said, what would that cap do us? What could we accomplish looking at a series of priorities and then developing a plan, showing it to the community, meeting as it started to take shape. And that's what happened. So, for example, we decided our initial plans were we'd like to rebuild Cedar Heights. So that was #1 on the list. And I thought, a lot of the kids drop from the west side. Why don't we put it out on the local living? So that's where some of our, for example, our initial thoughts were. We showed proposals, we drew it up. And what the folks in the community said is, wait a minute, we actually kind of like where Cedar Heights is now. We like the easy access from the highway. Yes, we do live out there, but it can be hard with the busing and everything else. It'd be easier to stay close to the highway. So why don't you build it there? So that was, for example, of a tweak that we made to our plan. Also, for me, I really want to go for the whole enchilada, right? I like that $500,000. Let's get it done. But I realize we have to be sensitive to that. So we looked at how can we really do this, and I think we talked about the 20-year bond being the best solution. We looked at doing things shorter with levies, because levies only need 50% to pass. But that means doubling or tripling what the cost would be to the taxpayer, right? And so, yes, it's going to cost money to borrow money, but I don't know if any of you, would like to have triple your mortgage payment. Would that be easy for you to swing? And that's what we would need if we did a series of levies, 3 and 4 or 5 times as much as we would pay over 20 years. And so, with that, we looked at what the community can get behind, what they can support. And I think Jerry talked about that the majority of the community has always supported all of our bonds, but we need to get to that 60%. So really trying to refine that plan, look at really what we really needed, and put those things that were most urgent, most critical, where we have the best safety and security impacts, we have the biggest impacts on our students, and frankly, make the experience of our kids, no matter where they went, a little bit more equal. Because when you look from elementary to elementary, there's a disparate experience there. When you look at the junior high experience, it's disparate. And I got made fun of quite a lot for going to Cedar Stones, okay, at Cedar Heights. And I know a lot of kids, still do. And they don't have the same opportunities that the folks at Marcus and the folks at Sedgwick do. We want to bring all those things up to standard. And then our high school, while it has been crowded, it was a lot more crowded, frankly, when I was there. When we looked at what needs to be done, we looked at how about taking care of the building that we have and expanding the parts where it's most crowded. So having double story in the oldest parts of the building, expanding the commons, really fixing that 1960s design that never got updated in 1978. And our community really seemed to respond to that. And so, while some people were disappointed in the meetings that there wasn't a second high school, they really liked what we did have to offer, and they understood why this was the important thing now. And if, I hope our community continues to grow, we do have that property reserved down on Clifton where we could build an elementary school to the west, we could build a second high school to the west, and as our town and community continues to grow, we have those options. So, I think like Jerry said, this is really what the community told us that they support, and so we think we have really a great package. And with the community's input, that's what we're putting on the ballot so we can make that decision come November 7th. So, thanks.
And so I don't know how many of you know this. Port Orchard is the 5th fastest growing city in the state. Some would argue that it's actually the 3rd, because I guess there's some of Eastern Washington, where they've had 100 people and they doubled their population. Those are all thrown in there too, but right now, Port Orchard is the 5th fastest growing city in the state, for better or for worse. Okay, I'm not going to argue that with you. So one of the things that we looked at when we were going through all this is if we did this, there would be, these funds are available from the state, and only partial funds if we did this and stuff like that. So Lee Fenton was on our committee. Lee, I'll let Lee tell you a little bit about his background, because it is impressive in this world, and this isn't. We're going to spend more than $271 million to build these buildings. The good news is it's not all coming from the taxpayers.
Thanks, Matt. Hi. We'll keep this brief. The focus of what I want to discuss is what are the metrics that build the $8 per thousand that we're hopefully going to have as a new opportunity and a new privilege to support our schools. The $8 per thousand is based on, obviously, the 271 $271 million, which is our local responsibility. In addition, there's additional money that will be coming to us from the state, and it has different terminology. You've heard the term state match. You've heard the term School Construction Assistance Program, or SCAP. It's what it is. It's a allocation of funding that comes from the state, and it's based on the level of property value that your community has in comparison to other districts across the state. In other words, how robust or how well-to-do is your community. That's kind of the way of grading that the state has. We end up being pretty well-to-do as far as the state looks at our property values. So we don't get a great rate of matching, unfortunately, as compared to maybe some other communities, but it is what it is. There's a set of rules that the state goes by, and there's a percentage amount that they say that they will sign up for based on your community. That is multiplied times a cost of construction. So that factor is multiplied times the cost of construction, but it's a made-up cost of construction. It's not the actual cost of construction. It's much, much less. And that's just what the state has to allocate. So it's kind of a made-up number, and it's much, much less than the actual cost of construction. So those are the two driving factors. Then when you look at each project is considered how long has it been in existence. In other words, how long has that school been on the earth? And has there been recent participation from the state to help with any modernizations or remodels for any of those schools? That is one criteria that in South Kitsap we hit the winner gauge, because all of our schools are past due for state participation. They're all aging schools that haven't been added onto or matched with state funds for over 30 years. So the good news is that means that all of our facilities qualify. You wrap all that up into a bow, and what do you get? You end up getting about 15 cents for every dollar. That's about what the rate is. Now, every school is going to be a little bit different depending on different criteria or different details, but that's about what the average is. If the school district and your community pays $1, you get about 15 cents in addition to that from the state. And that is matched. You have to spend the full amount, but then it gets reimbursed. So one of the key things with a bond program is to have multiple projects so that you can plan for that reimbursal as projects phase through the construction and the completion, and you kind of stair-step projects through from beginning to end. This is going to be a complex bond issue and a complex scope of work for our community. You know, upwards of $300 million we just don't snap your finger and contract that amount of work easily. There's going to be multiple projects. There's going to be multiple contracts. There may be multiple design firms and probably multiple construction agencies and firms that end up doing the projects. I kind of envision, and our preliminary planning shows that there's going to be kind of 3 waves of construction. There'll be an initial wave, when I say waves, I'm talking about the big 6 projects. There'll probably be a first wave of 2 projects, and then after those are kind of underway, then there'll be a second wave of 2 more big projects, and then a final wave of the final 2. And that will take place over the next 5 to 6 years of planning, and then construction will add on to that. So it's really a long process, and one that is pretty typical for this type of scope, but it will be a big scope for this community because we've never seen anything like it. The last big bond issue was the building of 3 elementary schools, right? Sydney, Mullinex, and Hidden Creek. And it was the same plan, and it was built one right after another. And then we also had Sedgwick and Marcus kind of built, again, as kind of prototypical plans, and one right after another. So this will be similar in some aspects in that there's going to be a middle school, Cedar, as a replacement, and then 2 new elementaries that may have very similar qualities so that we get an economy of design and maybe an economy of construction. The high school modernization will be a replacement of the south building, and Discovery and Explore will be a replacement of the Discovery campus or the Madrona campus on that site. All of the projects share something in common. They'll all be multi-story. They will all be replacement projects on their sites. Explore discounted because that's going to be merging over on the Discovery site. But you get the gist. They're going to be 2-story build-outs adjacent to single-story existing structures. So that's going to provide a logical and an economy of displacement. There's going to be very marginal displacement of students, and that's going to be good for the cost effectiveness. And so it's a good logical plan, and one that we're seeing statewide well worn out. Many districts are doing this pattern of construction when it comes to looking at an all-inclusive kind of repair and replacement of a district's infrastructure. And boy, South Kitsap needs an overhaul of their infrastructure. In my view, and I've been in the business of school construction and planning for close to 40 years, and I worked all over our state and in Oregon. I've never seen a district like ours. And I chose to live here because I believe in this community. But this community is overdue in kind of dealing with the needs that their district facilities have. So from a technical standpoint, to me it's very logical. I think it's very straightforward and thoughtful, and it does take advantage of and maximizes the state funds as much as possible. So that's what I have to share.
So, I'm hoping I did this right, but if we were to get an additional 15 cents or whatever, that's about $40 million from the state. That's a portion that the state.
It's in the mid-30s, mid-upper 30s.
Yeah. So I mean that's a little bit more money the taxpayers don't have to come up with. So what I'm trying to do here is I've talked about what we need, and that's where Superintendent Williams started out. How we got here, and in the process, it wasn't just sitting around the table. We did it on Zoom. We never sat around the table. I don't think we ever actually sat around the table. We walked a lot. We walked a lot, yeah. And that was back even when school was out, especially we had to wear masks when we wanted to schools. But we, that process went in there and we met for a long time. And then it was all turned over to the school board and
Director Wilson kind of talked about how they digested the information and we participated in some of those meetings also. And then Lee gave us this really high view of how complicated it can be. So thanks for that, because it's not a simple answer. So now, that's kind of the facts that we laid out and the process that we've gone through. Robert?
I just want to say something before I start frozen.
Okay. So that's my objective today, was to try to demonstrate the thoughtfulness that the school district has gone through to put this whole package together. Now, as I invite Jeff Daly up to talk about some of the issues, the problems that he sees with this plan. You want to come on up, Dr. Daly? And then, Robert wants to say something, since it's his house.
So, something always stuck out, Chuck said a long time ago about the restaurant, and it's appropriate here. One of the things he's always loved about a bar, and I know it's a big thing, you can have a lawyer, a plumber, a ballerina, a shipyard worker, all in that bar. You know what the one thing in common is? They don't give a crap what's going on in the world around that bar. They care about what's going on there, talking to each other in the community, right? That's why we allow this to take place here, because people come here, even if they disagree on what we're talking about, that's perfectly fine. But we drink beer together, we break bread together, because at the end of the day, we're all in the same community, and we do care. And so when we get into the pros and cons of this, I want us to keep that in mind. It's really important that no matter where you stand on divisive issues in our community, we all care. And I don't think anybody can take that away. So just remember that when you're asking questions. Have a beer at the end of this with your neighbor who disagrees and have a conversation. Because at the end of the day, they're who we actually do care about, is our neighbors and our friends in our community. So just always bear that in mind when we get into topics that are tough. Because they are tough. But if we can't sit and have a beer and talk about them, then we lose. So please just keep that in mind.
Here, here. The bar's still open. Nope. Good job.
Have it.
Now, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I've listened to everything, I've heard everything. My name is Jeff Daly, okay? I am here on behalf of people that you used to call the heroes, okay? The hourly workers. They don't make $100,000, they don't have 8% pay raises, they don't have all of the things that a lot of folks do. They don't work for the county, they don't work for the state, okay? We do have some in our group, but overwhelmingly, we are the hourly people, okay? So, $14, $15, $18, $20 an hour. Anybody that knows how to calculate this is $20 an hour, is $40,000, okay? So, these are not the people that jump up and down and say, oh yeah. Okay, I also don't do emotionalism, okay? It's for the kids, doesn't wash. Rah-rah, SK doesn't wash. Okay, those kind of things don't wash. No brainer, but an insulting remark. Okay, doesn't wash when you're talking about people that we're dealing with. So, I've heard something about disrepair. If you're a parent and you have your kids in our school and you think they're in disrepair, what kind of a parent are you? Okay, seriously. Get your kids out of that school because it's going to fall down and kill your kid. That's what you're saying. Safety. Do you not think that the sheriff's department, the Port Orchard Police Department, and because you have a shipyard across the way that is a national security asset, that you don't have FBI, NSA, CIA people who watch counterterrorism. That's the job of FBI. So when I hear those kind of things, they disturb me, okay? If you really want to know the status of our schools, there's a 3-inch binder, okay? They've had it for years. The committee that they were talking about had it, okay? And the fire marshal, who is not Jim Fawcett, but the fire marshal is actually downtown, one for the county and one for the city. And OSPI, that's the organization we've been talking about, they all have a copy of the status of our buildings. Okay, do you really believe that OSPI is going to let our buildings fall when they funded them? Do you really believe that the fire marshal are going to issue certificates of occupancy for buildings that are unsafe? So when you hear that rhetoric, please disregard that, because that's not what we're talking about. Okay, I want to go back just a little bit, and I want to just pick a couple of points here. Those of you that were here in 1998, when they were getting the land out in the Forming Woods, it took 7 years to get that land, okay? Took 7 years, $2 million what you were told, but it had to be rerouted, so about, Digley Road is not as it is now, $5.6 million. You've been paying with that for your impact fees. In fact, we just made the last payment last November, okay? So, it took 13 agencies, or 23, depending on how you count them, to get permits. Permits were good for 10 years, and then they expired. So whatever the committee that was in 2017, you were trying to build on land that you had no permits for. You had to go through the permitting process again. Okay, all of our buildings are way old. Permitting process amounts, and that's where I want to talk about some things with you. Okay, 30 years have gone by, okay? So, I'm just going to use one school as an example. You can do this for all of the other schools that you want to. Wallah Elementary. Wallah Elementary, and you can get this information yourself. I'm no brain person. You go to where you call up your property taxes, and when you call up your property taxes, it's parcel search, just search. There's about 20 overlays. You can overlay streams, roads, all kinds of stuff. You have the same information that I do. And you can see a wetlands, you can see a salmon stream, okay? And if you know the current code, you have to have offsets of 250 feet. Okay, plus there's a green belt there. The question is it a green belt or is it forestry? The codes are different. So we haven't built in 30 to 35 years. Okay, so my issue is take time and make sure we can build if you're going to do that. Okay, so if you don't have the offsets, you can't build. Okay, now one of the county commissioners, I was down there last night at the county commission meeting, is the guy that's going to decide a lot of this. So you've got somebody in your court, okay? But he can't get rid of all the rules, okay? And my group thinks that we have a lot of rules and we haven't looked at it. This plan sounds great. No one wants to stop the plan. Understand that. Okay, it's been 30 years, but I'm not going to fix 30 years because people have stopped it for some reason. Okay, so, building next to a school, Ellen and I didn't exactly jump up and down upon that. And your kids are going to be sitting there they're watching out the window, watching the tractors. Okay, they're not going to be sitting there listening. And people I've talked to that are listening to the construction noise on the tracks, it just reverberates around. And you're going to have your kids in school for 2 years? Yeah, it's a good plan. But let's start looking at the details that are going to accompany this. First of all, you got to get through all the permits. That's about 28 agencies. So it's not just let's build and go. Second of all, how many of you seen a picture of a 2-story elementary? Who will decide what a 2-story elementary is going to look like? Pastel, glass windows, what? So someone's gonna have to decide. Now, I know the answer for all of this to you all is, that's what we're gonna hire all these people to do. Anyone worked with contractors before? Okay, so what, you just walk in there and say, build me an elementary school, and they just start slapping it out? Probably not. They want an idea of what you want. They want to see, and then as you build it, maybe not quite what you want. Those are those change orders. That's why your your pool went from 5 to 10 was because, first of all, there were issues long ago, and second of all, that's not the fault of the board here, and it's not the fault of the superintendent. That's the fault of the community that you didn't review and look at what you were doing, because rebuilding a pool for $5.4 million, you can go to the internet right now. So, there's a talk about all of this state money, okay? Yeah, state money is available, you bet. But state money doesn't fund an elementary that's going to be oversized. OSPI, the people that are going to review a lot of this, believe it or not, that they actually have some people there that understand this. If we want to build a school for 400 kids in a school that we have 275 now with, that's fine. Knock yourselves out. But we're not paying for the other square feet. That's on your own. And we're not going to match the funds to it. And we don't build principal's office and other certain things. We build them in certain sizes. So if your footprint is bigger than that, oh well, you fund it. Okay? So that's fine. How much more is it going to cost? Same thing at Walla. How much more for 400 students versus 275? Okay? There are certain rules, certain regs, and that's going to take time to get through. And so they're just not going to build everything. By the way, who pays for the demolition of the schools when we move out of it? We're just going to do what? Leave them there? Demolition, especially of 30-year-old buildings that may have asbestos, is not cheap. Okay, that's all on us. Taxes. The current taxes, when I came here, the sign said 8,000 people. Now it says 16 when I drive into town. With all those people, and I keep hearing these weird things, but my taxes have quadrupled. Okay? Go to a person, and her name is Shannon Lewis. She's at the auditor or the treasurer's office. Go to Becky Stack. Those are the people that we're talking about. No one knows how much it's going to be. We have an estimate of $1.09. They are not done doing your assessments, because they won't be done doing your assessments until December. Okay? So, no one knows what this is really going to cost. Okay? So, if you talk to them, they will write you about a 4-page email and tell you exactly how the process works, and it's not like you've heard yet. Okay? All right. Parcel search, I've said go do that on your own. I've said that. Cedar Heights. I know people that told me it was built on a mud bog. And we're going to do what? Repeat another mud bog? Okay? It's critical land. It says right in the thing when you call it up. It'll say critical marshland. It'll say critical areas around. I don't know whether those are important, but anytime I see critical on a state map, that's going to be an issue. Same way with the ecological folks, same way with the state biologist people that are going to come in and do all this. It's not going to happen in 2 weeks. Okay? The answer is that, as you read in the, let me try to finalize some of this stuff for you. As you read the pamphlet that you just got in your mail today, we have 3 issues. Was due diligence done? I've not talked to one person, and I have 110 emails because I did a request for information from the county and the city that says they sat and talked to anybody. So I guess I missed all these meetings where all these people came to talk. Okay, sorry, I think I was at all of them, and I don't remember all of these people talking to you. Okay, I was at all the meetings when we had the quote community, and I can count on two hands the number of community people that came. Okay, now we had a whole lot of people at some of the meetings. If you work at Olala and you came to Olala, that was a crowd. And they're all school employees. So, I'm not sure on some of these things. I just, 5 projects, 5 different areas. This is going to be very complex, and that's been said. And I was talking about that. So, have we done due diligence? My committee, my group says no. Okay? There's too many little things that are out there that we haven't done. What we wanted was take some time. Make sure that we've got it all and it's going to work. That was not decided. We're going to rush forward with this. Good luck. Okay, because we don't even know if we can build these buildings. Okay, money-wise, we talked about that. $271 million and $188 million in interest. There are better ways to do this, folks. Okay, bonds are easy. They're simple. Everybody does bond. Not really. Not in this day and age. Back then they did, but not today. There are combinations of financing. Okay, and I don't remember, other than Piper Sandler coming and talking to us, I do remember people saying, yeah, I heard this, and yeah, these people are going to do it, but that's not what I've heard. Okay, so maybe I missed those meetings too when we said that. Okay, but there are other ways to do this. How many know the governor wants to put in electric buses in between 2030 and 2035? This addresses what? 4 schools, call it 5, maybe some of the high school. What about all the other facilities? What about NJROTC? What about the armory, which we own basically, because the only thing in the armory for the guard is an 8x10 office. So there's many things that we've not left out. But in 20 years, I'll be dead. Okay? You're paying this off and I'm dead. What about the rest of the district? What about all these other kids that everybody keeps telling me about? Okay, so that's the kind of areas that we look at. What did we want? Wait until the program is all fleshed out. Wait until you have a program that looks like we've covered everything. The entire district. Okay? If you want to wait 22 years before the next phase, go for it. There are other ways that can be done quicker and faster. Okay? And that's what we're saying. The last thing is the resolution. How many of you read the resolution? The resolution says that if something goes wrong, 3 board members will decide for you what they're going to do. Okay? $271 million you gave him, $459 million if you add up all that. And all of this discussion we're having is going to fall in the hands of 3 people on the board, because they hold the majority, to decide, oh, we couldn't build at this school, so we'll do this. Folks, I don't understand. This is what the voters want. But the resolution says we retain the right, or the board retains the right for all of this. So, read what you're saying and read what you're doing. Slow down, give it some thought. And the high school, what happened to that? 54% still want that high school out there. Okay? I'm not a fan of putting a high school out there, but we need something in terms of a high school that's called. And there were many other plans that were discounted. There are many other needs in the district that were discounted. Okay? This plan was, that's what we'll do. Okay, so I took a little bit more time, I'm sorry. Okay, that's my fault. But if you wanted to hear where we're at, then that's where it is. So let's take the time. Let's read relook at the plan, let's make sure it encompasses the entire district, all of the kids, all of the needs, and then go forward. And by the way, it's $990 million is what we're talking about, if you want to do that. Otherwise, the schools in 22 years that are 40 years will be, what, 62? And you're going to repeat this again? Thank you.
Both sides of the story. So now I'm going to invite up Cynthia Wilhelms, and he's going to kind of give, we started out, my objective was to present as many facts as possible, the opposition, the supporters, and then we'll go to some answers, some questions.
Thank you, Matt. And I'll reiterate what everyone else has said. Thank you to the Eagles for hosting us tonight. But thank you guys all for coming out. And thank you that the rain stopped, so we weren't all trying to get up the steps from our cars. It's been a very rainy day. I got to watch a pool happen at my school. Anyway, the rain was coming down pretty hard today. I was not there. Anyway, some of you know me as I do coach the high school debate team. That is not what I'm here to do. I am not going to point by point reiterate Director Day. I'm sorry, you're not here as a director. I won't be to speak Mr. Daly's remarks. I just want to kind of hit on a couple things and then kind of talk about it from my point of view. First of all, I respect the fact that we are in 100% agreement. We got to start somewhere. Our district, our facilities are old. I spent some time over the weekend looking at some of the letters you've written over the past about when the fire wanted something. It's like, what about our schools? Our schools are so old. We need to take care of our schools. And I appreciate that. And I think that's what we've always had common ground on that. And I've always appreciated that. But take you kind of on a little road. My daughter started at South Colby in 2003. I did the math, but I was pregnant with Sawyer, so that was, he was born in 2004. So she was a kindergartner in 2003. For 2005, she was a second grader. They do a plant growing unit. Okay, her teacher brought in a little tabletop greenhouse and had to unplug her lamp, her printer, and there was one light that we always had to say, "Hey, Miss Simmons, can you turn that light back on?" And she said no because the fuse will blow. Okay, when we talk about needing some of our schools needing upgrades, that's one of my favorite. Like I remember when they had to unplug everything every year just to run the plant unit. But Mr. Daly brought up, and this one hurts me in the stomach a little bit, the safety and security. When I think about safety and security of my kids when they went through South Kitsap schools, when I think of, I do wear a hat, I'm a teacher in South Kitsap schools, I'm not thinking about the FBI, the CIA, what China might be doing. I'm thinking about when in 2008 there was a police chase that ran down Sedgwick Road and someone jumped out of their car and police pursued, locked down John Sedgwick, locked down South Colby. And we were at South Colby till 6:30 that night. Caitlin was in 4th grade at that point in time, and she was in one of the many portables. I was there to pick her up. I had my son, he had to put on a nap. He was wearing like a pull-up and a t-shirt, so we're like running around like, what's going on out there? We didn't know if the person was armed or not. That building with all of its portables is not a safe place to be. We had students in that front portable, if you guys know the layout. My daughter was in the front portable, they moved all of the kids to one side because they needed to make a bathroom space in the other side. Students were going to the bathroom in a garbage can. Okay, we need to replace those schools, all right? Some of the other things, some of the things that I understand from the other side about we need to do our due diligence, but some of that costs money. And it costs the money that the voters need to approve because the district is not just flush with funds to go out and do get all of this done. It's part of the package. All of those feasibility studies, those are part of what needs to be done, part of the thing, but it's also, the land is already there. The schools are going to be built where there's already something versus going out to Old Flushing. I feel like I said, I don't want to make this into a, he said this, and I'm going to respond with that, because that's not where my heart is tonight. My heart tonight is about, I've always stood by this. If you guys were around in the 2016 campaign, back when we lost by 38 votes, very strong on this. If you're a no voter and you're informed and you're 100% and you know the facts and you're gonna vote no, I just want people voting. But if you're not sure and you're voting with misinformation, make sure you're getting all the facts. And that's why I'm glad that people came out tonight. I hope they're here to get the facts. And I'm gonna stop talking now and open up to Q&A because that's, I think, the better purpose that I can help with, and some people that were part of the decision-making process can be part of it. So thank you.
Thank you. So, I got a couple of questions. You're gonna turn that one on and this one on.
I'll get it back to you.
Turn that on.
You can use that for sticker.
Okay. There we go. All right. All right. There we go. All right. So, the first question I know is Superintendent going back up here. Oh, that's fine, yeah. So I guess the first question is, and it was kind of addressed, we're not doing another high school. What, and I don't know, maybe, Director Wilson, but the ideas and the thoughts to change from a second high school to a more overall approach to, addressing the district's needs. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I think the biggest thing with that is the prioritization. And I think Gary talked about this. If we really look at what the needs were around the district, Seventh High School potentially needed still, but really the needs are greater than the high school. What we try to do is prioritize the highest and those schools that we talk about as those highest schools. There's still some others. They're not talk about the other things that we talk about some of the other things that are needed around the district, but you don't replace district jobs. Or you so I think that was the whole thing. One of the highest priorities, one of the needs, second high school, yes, still need to be. I don't know that that's where my heart is, but I think it's important to do everything. We have to start somewhere. That's why we teach those.
So, no, you gotta squeeze it just right to keep the batteries tight. I know, right?
Do you need duct tape?
I tried duct tape, I tried rubber bands, I tried electrical tape. I tried a little bit of everything on these guys. So another quick question, and I don't know who wants to answer this, but let's talk about the pool, the hospital runs. If anybody give a quick explanation of what happened with the pool and why it costs more. It might work for a few minutes, so you gotta talk really fast.
So yes, the pool was, I think it was $4.5 million in the capital levy. But the one thing about that that doesn't get talked about, and I think we're upward of $11 million. The pool open today, it's beautiful, we have kids swimming in it, so that's a success. However, the plan only talked about fixing the removable floor. It didn't talk about the pool deck, it didn't talk about the locker rooms, it didn't talk about the office. It was fixing, didn't talk about the roof, it was fixing the pool that the hydraulic system was broken. So, I just said this, it wasn't anyone here now, but there should have been some more thought put into that. And I think the lesson learned for us as a district is, when we put something out, we have to do the due diligence to make sure we're putting it out as accurate. So that's why, yes, were there some things that we uncovered during the, absolutely, sweep this as hard as we can. But I also think that we did way more than was really intended to do, because there's no point in doing it if you're not going to do it well.
Oh, with that in mind, with that failure of doing due diligence, how do you know you've done your due diligence for the school? I just talked about 271 or 500.
So I would say there's no way that you would know. We have to have a little bit of faith, a little bit of trust. I would just say this: the district has learned the lesson from this capital level. And so we can't repeat that mistake. But I can't give you a guarantee. I can't convince you to trust. But that's what it's going to come down to. That's what the voters are going to have to decide.
Are there any other questions? Questions?
Hi. So my question is, you're asking us taxpayers to pay the $271 million for bond. What about the additional interest that we're gonna have to pay on top of the 271 million? That's my first question.
When I bought my house out in Manchester, right, there was the sale price. But my real estate agent didn't say to me, well, yeah, this is the price, but keep in mind when we buy this, it's actually going to be interest too. That's just how we buy it. We buy cars that way, we buy houses that way. Interest is part of it. You're exactly right, Mariana. That's how it works. And that's every bond that's ever been passed. So I can't defend that there's no interest, but I do make that comparison when we buy a home. And we have real estate people here, I don't think they've ever said, here's the house, but remember, you're going to pay X amount of dollars of interest. Because that's just not how we do things. So it is a fact, but I think that's just part of the way we do life here.
When the bond was talked about some time ago, the interest rate was 4%. Yesterday I heard that the interest rate is 8.8. And I thought about, wow, what is that going to do to the cost? So I have a handy dandy little computer that told me that with 8.8 interest, our payments on that would be $2,184,742.01 per month. Where are we going to get the $26 million per year to pay on this bond? That's the question.
From my understanding, there are a few things in our favor. One is that we can get in as well as some state funding, which can help us to get a slightly better rate. But the other part is that the bond won't all come at once. So it'll be 2 or 3 or 4 pieces of that. And so as interest rates decline, and my understanding is they may have peaked as of maybe today, is that we'll be able to we'll get lower rates as we go out. And if the bond interest rates do go down and over time, we would assume them to normalize somewhere lower than we are today. But we can refinance that debt just like many of you hopefully got a chance to do with your home mortgages. You might add a 6% or 7%, be back down to 2.75 or something like that. And if that's the same opportunity we'll have as a school district as well. And so there will be, with higher interest rates, temporarily higher rates, but those over time can be, as rates change in our favor. But you're right, we really should have done something before when rates were near 0. It would have cost us a lot less, we would have got a lot more school. Problem is, the buildings keep aging, and our needs are still here. So it would have been great to do it 5 years ago. I would have liked to do that. Here we are. Yeah, there's, I'll turn it over to Lee, but there are, we have overhead management costs, we have environmental study costs, we have overrun costs. All of those are factored in. I'll let Lee give you the thumbnail breakdown.
Yes. Inflation is accounted for, and it's assumed high, and it's assumed every year, even going. So hopefully we're conservative in that will perform better. Hopefully it won't be 7% every year or 8% every year, but we have accounted for a pretty significant inflation assumption every year. It is a percentage. It varied between 5 and 12. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So, thanks for asking. All of the projects that have been conceived have gone through a basic analysis of need, right? Which is the very first step in any due diligence is what are you going to build, right? And what is the need and what are the wants? And it's not just need, it's wants. That's a big part of building a new school. If you just did needs, you say, well, is our building condemned? Are any of our buildings condemned? No. So do we really need any new schools? I mean, need? No. But of course, we want better. So part of the due diligence that we do, first step is to really look at the needs and then look at what is available, right? What do you have in your existing site plan and building that will accomplish that? And then you do an analysis of, well, this is what we have, this is what our needs and wants are. Do they match, or do we need to build new? So again, this is part of due diligence, is discovering what you want to build and how you want to build it. Once you do that, you decide that it's going to be X percent or X square footage bigger, then you say, well, can it fit on this site? So that's when you start to look at all of the existing information available, and you look at all of the data that is available on county websites to do basic kind of site planning for environmental as well as structural capacity. Those are the two big concepts, right? And so the district hired myself as an educational facility planner, as well as engineers that have experience building schools and have, that's basically their primary focus. And is there a likelihood that those projects are going to be successful as we continue? And the answer to all of those on every site is yes. You don't go through and do permitting for projects before they're funded. The cost of doing that level of analysis is baked into the bond. No community, I would challenge everyone who's saying we haven't done due diligence to tell me a single school district that has gone through and done the level of due diligence of permitting certainty that you're asking and expecting. It doesn't happen. It's out of this world, the cost and the time that it would take and the complexity and the unsure. You don't even know exactly for sure what you're building or who's building it or when it's with any certainty of when it's going to be built because you haven't passed them on. So what you're asking is untenable and isn't typical, and that's why you bake those costs and the time to do that due diligence after the bond passes. That's what's typically done in school construction, and that's what this district has planned for. And I will tell you, because I've been involved in the planning and the conception of bonds on the previous bond issues, and this level is much farther than we've gone in the past, and it's really asked questions of what is the primary need of this district, and what are some logical and cost-effective ways to do it. Not just what's the shiniest and the biggest and the most impressive, but what's the most cost-effective. And that's what these projects are. And I'm really proud to be part of that process, and I'm proud that the district has done the due diligence, plan appropriately, ask the right questions, make the correct assumptions, and then fund the necessary required steps for permitting and due diligence that happen on every project, every complex project like this after the bond passes. That's the most cost-effective and thoughtful way for community to be addressed, because there's no assumptions that they're spending money that on a project that may not be conceived because the bond hasn't passed. So that's my answer to your question.
So the reason why I asked is because I know the builder, developer, plan, and sell, as well as the builder, how will it
when I do a project, the first thing I do is take down a conceptual drawing, plot map, this is where I want to build, these are, this is the concerned areas. And then the county sends it out to like 6 different department heads. Then we all meet together and they tell me.
That's a pre-application process,
Yeah.
and that's what happens.
And it's $400. It's $400 to do that. And that's where I have a problem, is that you didn't even spend $400
So you paid.
before you asked us to pay $271 million. I just think at the very least, on the geotech, environmentally sensitive properties, it would behoove you to spend $400 to have the county head say, look, these are the studies you're gonna need, this is what you're gonna have to do, so you.
All right, Rhonda, I don't see a question coming here.
No,
I think
I'm wondering why you
I think
didn't
it's
do
the
that.
point where we're arguing over the definition of due diligence and things like that. So I didn't see anything distinguished over there. And we only have a few more minutes here.
Well, I just have to wrong with these two who are engaged. Was the question really as simple as this? Was feasibility looked into? Is that the question you're asking? Was it feasibility study?
So feasibility studies were done at a very high level with an assurance of success on every project. And was it funded to the level of detail that you're describing, which is a pre-application process, where you actually pay consultants to attend those meetings and prepare documents for the county to review? No, because the district does not have that level of funding to do that level of due diligence. That's what they're asking for in the bond, and that's a normal approach to school construction. In my 40 years of experience, which is different than your 27 or whatever it was in real estate, 37 in real estate, mine is in school construction. And that's the process that we see happen and that is typical for schools.
If you're right, typically when I got you, guys, everyone's gonna go back to the basketball business. And I think, Mr. Wilson is born, I really don't I don't think a lot of this team knows with a plan. So is there a question? There's a statement here.
No. I don't.
Where are the studies that have been claimed to have been done? I found out, I did an inclusive request for public information. All places, some people here may say an internet. There are no documents. Testimony, not even a basic. I don't know, Mr. Ben, are you qualified for environmental studies and passive? Yeah. I'm asking a question. Are you qualified? I mean, that person. It's not a personal attack, but you're upset because.
All right, we're to take that mic. What time is it, Chuck? Chuck, you know what time it is?
What's that?
What time is it?
7:20.
7:20. So we got like 10 minutes left.
Sorry, Matt. And we have, okay, first I'll come and just go to the mayor. Okay, so, my question is, speaking to the due diligence board, why are we wanting to build a new school at Olala rather than expanding the school footprint at like Holiday Bridge?
That's not a lead question.
Because there's 270 students, which is less than 10 classrooms of 30 students. Why would we not want to just expand the Mullinex School and close down the Olala School and eliminate all the overhead that comes with the property, all the administration, the school administration?
Okay.
Why would we not want
Director
to
Wilson,
do
you're
that?
going to answer that question.
So the main reason is that we talk to the community, this community, South Kitsap community. We believe in our little individual communities, our local schools. As a board, the majority of the board, I should say, wants to have schools in every part of our community. We want to have a local elementary school in every community, a place that they can call home, a place that some can walk to, some can bus to. We don't want kids spending an hour or more on the bus give bus to some other community. Those sites are also used for lots of different community events. Local community, we want elementary school everyone. So I see in the future, for example, an elementary school over on the west side on the old Woodland property, and there's one for another school there as well. But I see that happening in our future. We want to have from that regional middle schools. So those elementaries go to regional one, again, in your area, and then one high school. And this is really where I'm different from two. We really found the two high schools was very divisive. Now, this is a pitch, but everything every person I talked to said, we don't want to buy a school for the rich kids in the Farmer Woods, right? Let's have one. And I really believe that we should have, well, you're rich, you should buy a high school over there.
If we go to school, why do we not have one?
I think we should have one school that every elementary kid, no matter where they can go to. We have one.
All right. No, we're done.
That's why.
Robert? Hey, I want to make you go.
Wait, I actually have one question myself. So I do a lot of contracting work for the government, and this is just a basic finance question. One of the things we find often is the government estimates are always way short where they need to be. And so I think a lot of people always have that concern because we see it in the city and the county, they notoriously are way over budget on projects, and they have a hard time actually managing or running those projects. And so, as a contractor, I see that all too often, especially with federal government projects. How do we know that we've got enough funding, enough contingency in there, right? I know what happens over 5 years. How do we know that we've got enough contingency in there to make sure if this does pass, that all of a sudden we're not needing more, right? And that's always a concern for me, not only as a taxpayer, but I don't want to see the district spending more than it needs to either, right? I want to see them getting contracts done on time and on budget. That's really important to me as a citizen and as a taxpayer. So what contingency do you build into a project of this scale, right, over multiple years, so we don't get caught in this trap of over budgeting, right?
Yeah, contingencies are part of the estimate for the work. So for every dollar that is estimated for construction, it's just construction dollars, right? There's an additional 55 cents set aside to do the business, right? To hire professionals to do, to complete every step of due diligence, including pre-application, environmental review, all those steps, as well as then architects and engineers. And then you total all that up, you put addition on top of that, contingencies for design, as well as contingencies for construction. And the contingencies for design and construction range in the 15 to 20% range. That's a logical sum to plan for, because that's what we experience. Better than that, we typically have, you'll set up contracts with architects and with contractors to hit targets that are half as big as that. That gives you a little bit of extra comfort and buffer, because there are many unknowns. The beauty of this plan is that we try to simplify and reduce the unknowns and make it new construction instead of complex modernization, except for the high school project. The high school project will be a complex modernization, but we've increased the sum of contingency for that project. And that's allocated in the estimating for that work. You always have complexity, but it's how you plan for it, and you embrace it, and you expect it. That's just how these projects go.